Back when I was a student, I used to be part of what MIT calls an independent living group. And people think of MIT students as a little oddball to begin with. Well, we were the oddballs at the end of the oddball spectrum, to put it nicely. And we used to throw parties that were maybe a little bit different than most parties. And one that we were throwing a couple years ago, we decided we really wanted to have a surrealism theme to this party. And we had created a whole list of sort of events or happenings that we wanted to do during the party. We were going to do things like, find some random guest who had never been to our house before, decide it was their birthday, and then lead everyone on this tour through the most bizarre parts of our house, ending in this really weird basement area where we'd have an elaborately prepared birthday cake for them. And this was, to us, the best idea we had ever heard. We didn't understand why we hadn't done this for all of our parties up to this point. And one of the ideas that we came up with, in addition to that, was having a dinner party. During the party, we'd select a few people, maybe 12, and tell them, hey, you've been invited to this very formal dinner party, which will be happening in an hour. Like, put on your best clothing and meet us down there. And we looked up some research into surrealism as part of this party, and we realized that Salvador Dali, in the early 20th century, had actually thrown a really bizarre, surreal dinner party, where, among other things, the main course that he presented was, on an elaborate silver serving platter, a bunch of live frogs. And he opens up the serving platter, and all these live frogs are jumping over all these hooty-tooty New York artists, and it's, a bizarre scene for everyone. Salvador Dali's got his anteater there, and we were like, man, we should try to replicate something kind of like that. Where can we get live frogs? This is now the morning of the party, and we're like, we need live frogs like today. How's this gonna happen? Chinatown, of course. So, we take our friend who speaks fluent Mandarin, and we walk down to Chinatown, and we go to C-Mart, and he asks the person behind the counter by the meat, like, hey, do you have frogs only in Mandarin? And the person goes, no, but go over there to that store. So we go over to this other store, and my friend's like, hey, do you have frogs? And the person says, frogs, also in Mandarin. It's like, yeah, frogs. He's like, let me check. And he goes out behind the counter, takes out this bucket. It's like a 5-gallon paint bucket filled with frogs, live frogs, like all hopping on top of each other in this one mass in this bucket. Brings it out front. He's like, how many do you want? We just have this behind the counter sitting there. So we buy 3 frogs. He puts them to us in a plastic bag, like you carry your produce back in. And we walk back to our house with these 3 frogs. So we host the party. We have our most normal friend dressed up in a tuxedo be the host of the MC of the dinner party, announcing all the courses. We have the traditional dirt with a side of prickly balls and wine glasses filled with angelfish, that sort of thing. And then finally the main course comes out. And we open up this serving platter full of live frogs, and just like we had hoped, they jump all over the place. People are delighted, everyone's kind of scared and weirded out, and the people who have never been here before never want to come back. It's exactly like we had hoped. So we gather up all of the frogs, put them back in their temporary tank we had made, and call it a night, or enjoy the rest of the party. The next morning, I wake up, and I see an email in my inbox, and the email just has the subject line, and the body is just an attachment of a picture of the frog tank tipped over, with no frogs in it. And we have a couple cats, and we presume the cats have done this. So everyone wakes up, this is 9 a.m., and we're searching all over the house for these frogs. Where did they go? We eventually managed to track them all down under all the couches and put them back in their tank. Now, these frogs were sold in Chinatown to be eaten. And that was sort of our plan all along, was we'd keep the frogs for a little while and then maybe see what we could actually cook with the frogs. How do you prepare frogs? We had never done it. But one of the people living in our house was a fierce animal rights advocate. It was inappropriate that we kill these frogs, and that we should, hold on to them forever. Which was more or less what we did, and these frogs are still living in this house. They're the luckiest frogs to ever come out of that Chinatown bucket.